Hi everyone, I'm Sophie. I'm only 18, but I'm already the boss of a large research and technology company. What's my secret? I'll tell you everything. But first, we need to get into a time machine and go back to the very beginning of my story. Press like and let's get started. I always had a deep thirst for knowledge. My brains shone brighter than a Christmas tree. When I was 1, I could already read fairy tales before going to bed to myself. By the time I turned 3, I was already reading chemistry and physics textbooks for fun. I was a little genius. My parents, on the other hand, weren't smart at all. They barely graduated from school and never even thought about going to college.
Honey, this professor is saying the Earth is round.
Is he dumb? The Earth is flat. If it was round, we'd all fall off it. They weren't the brightest bulbs on the string and had never been too interested in science. Instead of working hard, they tried to get easy money. Unfortunately, they were too stupid for that. As you've probably guessed already, we were quite poor. Still, we don't choose our parents, and I loved mine anyway. One day, Dad came up with, in his opinion, a brilliant idea.
Holy heck, look at how many views this dancing guy has on TikTok. We could do the same thing.
He suggested we film silly videos to become rich and famous. Mom liked his idea, and they started to make faces on camera. Even though they had no viewers, my parents gave it their all, to the point where they even forgot to take care of me. What time is it? It's time to have a snack! Unfortunately, there was no food in the refrigerator, and Mom and Dad didn't care about anything except their content. So I made a shopping list and went to get groceries by myself. Hey, Mr. Seller, help me get the cereal from that shelf. I can't reach it. Are you alone here? Where are your parents? I was smart beyond my years, so I immediately came up with an answer. I'm 21. I just look young thanks to vitamin face masks. Okay. He scratched his head, confused, and I was on my way. That evening, I got bored and started to play with the Rubik's Cube. Have you ever tried solving it? It's quite easy. I ended up in the background of one of my parents' videos, and it went viral. Mom and Dad realized that I was their ticket to a comfortable life and filmed dozens of videos of me. For example, Mom made me a funny cactus costume and filmed me running around the playground and scaring everyone. Who wants a hug? Of course, all the children ran away screaming. Later, Dad and I played robbers on camera.
Hey, partner, what's taking you so long?
Give me a second. Just a couple more turns and done. I opened the safe like a pro and pulled out a bunch of little marmalades that looked just like gold bars. It was fun. The viewers really liked the smart little me, and my parents' channel blew up. We couldn't even go to the store without being recognized anymore. Reporters and fans crowded around us every time they saw us.
How did you raise such a brilliant daughter?
Mom clearly didn't know what to say, so I took matters into my own hands. No comments. There will be no interview today. Long story short, soon we were rolling in money. However, my parents spent it on all sorts of nonsense and even used the bills as napkins. I got a new friend, a bear made of bills, Mr. Bucks. Those happy times did not last long. I soon grew up and was no longer the cute little girl my parents' followers loved so much. Besides, I was tired of starring in such dumb videos. My parents' channel stopped bringing us money, and they hadn't managed to save up anything either. By the time I turned 14, Mom and Dad got into debt, and I even had to say goodbye to Mr. Bucks. That was the least of my problems, though. I knew the curriculum, and going to school became boring. Pythagorean theorem? That's too easy. My inquisitive mind demanded challenges, so I started to solve complex mathematical problems. One day, trouble knocked at our door, or rather, bailiffs. They said my parents had a week to pay off their debt. Otherwise, we would lose our house. We need $100,000. I don't want to live in a cardboard box. Damn it, I didn't want that either. So I tried to figure out how to help my parents. So I spent that evening looking for a solution online, and eventually I found something. The Clay Mathematics Institute was offering $1 million prize to anyone who could solve the great Millennium Prize problems. Have you heard about those? That's what they call complex math problems the best minds in the world had been puzzling over for decades. Let's see if I can do this. I focused, and to my own surprise, easily solved one of the problems. Hell yeah! I'm basically Einstein in a skirt! I sent an email to the Institute, and I got an answer the very next day. I did it! The best mathematicians in the country praised my intelligence. I was invited to the Institute so I could get my prize. They had a condition, though. The ceremony would be taking place in 2 days, and I couldn't be late for even a minute. Otherwise, I'd be getting no money. 2 days to get to another city? I need to leave now! I immediately told my parents about my success, and I asked them to drive me to the Institute, but they didn't believe me.
Who would pay money for a solution for some equation?
Sophie, be serious. Ugh, my parents were such morons! Sometimes I even thought I was adopted. Maybe I was actually an alien. That would make more sense than being related to them. Anyway, my parents were of no help, and I decided to go to the neighboring city by myself. I drew up a route and I headed to the bus stop. However, the sheriff was patrolling the streets in his pickup truck and saw me. He stopped me and gave me an incredulous look.
What's your name, young lady? Why are you here all alone?
Everyone in our town knew the sheriff took his job extremely seriously. He said he had to identify me and find my parents.
I'm gonna run you through the database. What if you ran away from home?
Damn it! I couldn't stay there. The bus would leave without me. There was no time to explain everything, so I tricked him. Mr. Mr. Sheriff, you've got a flat tire, see?
I do? Where?
He bent down to check, and I snuck past him and hid behind the bus stop.
Hey, run away. Where'd you go? Not a single child's gone missing on my watch yet. I'll find you.
Great! Being arrested was the last thing I needed. However, I couldn't stop now. I decided to get the prize money first, and then explain to the sheriff that it was all just a big misunderstanding. He kept looking for me, and I couldn't relax for even a second. Luckily, the bus pulled up to the stop, and I got on it. I'll get that million. I put on headphones, and I listened to a podcast on the way. I'd become super rich and never ever have problems again. We spent a day driving along a deserted highway. In the evening, the bus stopped at a gas station. There was also a roadside cafe by it. The driver and all the passengers went there to eat, while I nervously stirred at the time. Come on, we're gonna be late!
Do not worry, miss. The bus follows the schedule. We'll arrive on time.
His words calmed me down a little, and I decided to eat too. I only just got my pancakes with syrup when I saw the sheriff's car drive up to the cafe. Was he following me like I was some sort of criminal? My worst fears came true. The sheriff walked in and started to show the visitors a video from his dash cam. It showed me running away from him and getting on the bus.
Excuse me, has anyone seen this girl? I suspect she ran away from home.
Holy theorems! I would definitely be late if he brought me back home now! I couldn't miss my chance to go down in history as the youngest mathematician! So I desperately tried to come up with a solution, and eventually decided to hide in the bathroom until the sheriff left. I was a genius! I hid behind a tray of pancakes and slipped past the sheriff.
Excuse me, miss. Have you seen—
No! I haven't seen anyone! Phew! That was close. I ran into the bathroom and waited. Luckily, none of the passengers remembered my face. So the sheriff left with nothing. I saw his pickup truck drive away from the cafe through the window, and I left the bathroom. Once I got outside, I realized my adventures were just beginning. The bus had left without me. Luck turned its back on me. What was I supposed to do now? I decided to hitchhike and went toward the road. Let's pause here. Guys, never do this, okay? On with the story. Soon, I got lucky, and a nice old couple, Mr. and Mrs. Palmer, stopped their car by me.
Sweetie, what's your name? What are you doing here without your parents?
Good evening, I'm Sophie, and I really need to get to the city. Honey, let's give this young lady a lift. Of course, we should help the kid. I thanked them and got into the car, but for some reason, the old couple were in no hurry to move. Excuse me, what are we waiting for? I can't remember where I put my glasses. They're on your face. Oh, you're right. My memory isn't as good as it used to be. It was a disaster. We stopped several times because he took wrong turns and kept forgetting where we were heading. I was so tired that before I knew it, I fell asleep. I dreamed of the greatest mathematicians in the world, proudly shaking my hand and handing me a check for $1 million. I even woke up with a smile on my face. However, it immediately fell off my face as soon as I realized it was night, and the car had stopped by some house. Hey, where are we? When the couple heard me, they jumped in their seats and quickly turned around to stare at me. Girl, who are you? What are you doing in our car? Wonderful. They must have forgotten they'd promised to give me a lift. When I explained everything to them, Mr. and Mrs. Palmer laughed good-naturedly. Oh, I'm sorry, Sophie. At our age, people become forgetful. They promised to drive me to the city the next morning. In the meantime, they suggested I spend the night at their place. It wasn't like I had anywhere else to go, so I agreed. I woke them up early the next morning. We got in the car, but it wouldn't start. Oh, I'm out of gas. We must have forgotten to refuel yesterday. My eye was twitching. Solving the Millennium Prize problem was easier than getting to the Institute. I felt like I was about to lose it. But then, Mrs. Palmer had an idea. Sophie, take our bike. You can use it to get to the city. Thanks. I'll return it on my way back home. I got on the bike and I rode it down the road at lightning speed. Come on, Sophie. Hurry up. The city is so close. That wasn't the end of my misadventures, though. Soon, I was stopped by a local policewoman. She thought I stole the bike from the old couple.
Mr. and Mrs. Palmer realized it was missing and called the police.
Can you believe it? Had they forgotten they let me borrow it just 10 minutes ago? I tried to explain the situation to the officer, but she told me to wait until we arrived at the station. We got there and waited for the old couple. Of course, I knew that it was all a misunderstanding, and the Palmers would confirm I wasn't a thief once they remembered who I was. But I was still terribly nervous because I was running out of time. I was already in trouble, and then that annoying sheriff walked into the station. My luck was truly terrible.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm looking for a runaway. Have you seen her?
If he saw me, my parents and I would lose our house for sure. I had to get out of there. While the sheriff was talking to the cops, I tiptoed to the window and climbed out into the street. Then I ran down the road like my life depended on it. I could see the city up ahead. Yes, I was so close. Then I heard a car drive up to me. It was the sheriff. He caught up to me and got out of his pickup truck. That was it. I was done for.
Here you are. It's dangerous for kids to be traveling without adults. I'm taking you back to your parents.
I had always been a strong person, but at that moment, I couldn't help but burst into tears. The officer handed me a handkerchief and asked me why I was so upset and where I'd been going. I had nothing to lose, so I told him everything. The prize money was our only chance to keep our house. But everything's lost now. The award ceremony is in 15 minutes. There's no way I'm gonna make it there on time.
Wait, I think I know you. Aren't you that smart kid from TikTok?
I sniffed and nodded. The sheriff didn't quite believe me, though, and handed me a Rubik's Cube. Do you want me to prove it? Sure. It took me only a couple of seconds to solve it. The sheriff clapped his hands, delighted.
Oh, it is you. I'm your fan, little genius. Get in the car, Sophie. We still have time.
I couldn't believe the sheriff had agreed to help me. Then he turned on the siren and we hurried to the institute. We ran into the building and I managed to get up on the stage at the last moment possible.
Sophie Turner. Is Sophie Turner here? No? It's a shame she won't be getting any prize money then.
Wait, I'm here! I was awarded the prize, and the best minds in the country lined up to congratulate me on my success.
You're very smart, Sophie. You earned this reward.
Thank you, Professor. After a small press conference, I could finally go home. The sheriff said he would give me a ride. I asked him to stop by Mr. and Mrs. Palmer's house on the way so I could return their bike. Thank you for trying to help, even though you almost ruined everything. Take care of yourselves.
Who was that? I have no idea, dear.
At parting, the sheriff handed me the Rubik's Cube and asked me for an autograph. After that, I finally came back home and told my parents the great news. Mom, Dad, I'm back! You didn't believe me, but I really did earn some money.
Sophie, when did you leave the house?
Wow, my parents hadn't even noticed I was gone for a few days. It was like they were the kids and I was the adult. But what mattered more was we paid off the debt and we were allowed to keep the house. Mom and Dad wanted to spend the rest of the money on dumb stuff, but I wouldn't let them. I spent it on education and never regretted it. At 17, I graduated from the university with honors. By the time I turned 18, I started my own company. As for my parents, I sent them to college.
Wow, the earth is round after all.
I didn't know science was so interesting. I'm proud of their success. Knowledge is wealth, after all. What was the last book you read? Tell me in the comments down below. And don't forget to press like. Hi, I'm Jill Collins. I had a hobby, filming cosplay videos. I could spend days dressing up. After all, I could afford it. My mom ran a successful business and gave me everything I wanted. She didn't spoil me, though. On the contrary, Mom often scolded me because of my poor academic performance and tried to get me to help around the house. Jill, have you cleaned your room? That's so boring. Oh, honey, someday you'll have to grow up. I was sure that day wouldn't come anytime soon. So I enjoyed my childhood and didn't worry about the future. I knew that thanks to my mother's business, I wouldn't need for anything. But one day, life taught me a cruel lesson. Our biology teacher divided our class into pairs so that we would do projects together. Unfortunately, I got paired up with Fred. He was a walking encyclopedia. Fred wasn't pleased either. Why couldn't my partner be literally anyone else? Hey, what's your problem? Everyone knows you're irresponsible and careless. Oh, is that so? I'm funny and charming, and my mom is going to give me a car soon. Got it? I don't care. If we fail the project or the final exams, we'll have to repeat a year. Oh, whatever. At least we would get to be kids a bit longer. I jokingly stuck my tongue out and ran home. It was time to remind Mom of her promise to buy me a car. Jill, you're not ready for such a responsibility yet, but that's not the only reason I'm saying no. Mom sighed heavily and admitted that her successful business had failed, and we couldn't afford to buy something so expensive. I had some money left and bought a toy store, but it brought me no money. I made a mistake. What on earth? That sucked! I didn't want to be poor at all, so I filmed a cosplaying video to get my mind off things. All of a sudden, my mom ran into my room, beaming. I know how to save my business. Everyone had been talking about the movie Barbie lately, so she decided to turn her toy store into a themed boutique and only sell dolls. All I need is a flashy advertising campaign. She looked at me, and I could see the moment she got an idea. Jill, you like cosplay, don't you? Would you like to dress up as Barbie? She suggested I stand in the shop window dressed like a doll to attract customers. It was so cringy. Of course, I said no at first, but Mom's words changed my mind. Honey, either you help me or we'll be left with nothing. I won't be able to afford a car then. Okay, I get it. The next day, Mom dressed me up like Barbie, and we came to the store. She had built a small house with pink plastic furniture in the window. I sat there and had a tea party with toys, while passerbys looked at me. Soon, I caught the attention of a rich lady and her son. Choose whatever you want, sweetie, but hurry up. Mommy's running late for a meeting. The little rascal started running around the store and throwing Barbies off the shelves. I don't like these dolls. They're stupid. While my mom watched in horror as that brat destroyed her store, I noticed Fred among the passerbys. Damn it, he noticed me too and walked into the store. Had luck turned its back on me? Jill Collins, why are you sitting here instead of working on our project? Sod off, Fred. I'm working. My classmate grumbled that we would fail because of me. I needed him to leave before he scared away all the customers. I got it. I made a duck face and came up to Fred. If you don't leave, I'll kiss you. No, you're the girl of my nightmares. Stay away from me. He ran away and I laughed out loud. The spoiled kid noticed it and pointed at me. This doll is funny. I like it. Buy this one. What? Was he kidding? The kid's mom tried to explain to him that I was a real person and not a toy, but Hugh suddenly started to roll around the floor, crying and banging his fist. Buy it, buy it, buy it! Jeez, he was loud. The rich lady must have grown tired of his temper tantrum too. Her name was Mrs. Goldie. She nervously came up to us and offered us a deal. The woman wanted me to babysit her son and live with them dressed like Barbie for a while. She offered me very good money for it. Please say yes. He was driving me crazy. I was over the moon. Hanging out in a mansion dressed like a doll was hardly a hardship. I could even buy a car with the money I earned.
Mom hesitated at first, but I managed to talk her into it. Mom, I'll give you part of the money to promote the store. That convinced her. Mom gave me her permission, and the next day, I moved into the mansion. OMG! I didn't know where to look. They had a swimming pool with water slides, a home cinema, and a popcorn machine there. My inner child was squealing. However, Mrs. Goldie was not at home. A maid met me and said that she was rarely around. Then she led me to Hugh's room and warned me that the child was a handful. He is spoiled, arrogant, and can't do anything by himself. I don't envy you. I didn't doubt I could handle a toddler, so I waved her words away and confidently stepped into his room. Hugh jumped for joy when he saw me. Yes, my doll is here. Let's have fun. Call me Jill. Don't tell me what to do. I'm in charge here. Okay, boss. I decided to play along. First, he wanted to play the beauty salon. I sat in front of the mirror and watched Hugh ruin my hair. My eyes started twitching. This hairstyle is all the rage now. It's the hornet's nest. How beautiful. Then he made me walk the podium, but I had to move like a doll. No, that's terrible. Start over. Being Hugh's babysitter turned out to be harder than I expected. He wouldn't leave me alone the whole day. The maid had been right. He was a little monster. At dinner, he threw his salad at the wall and demanded we bring him sweets. I was starving, but Hugh wouldn't let me touch the food. You're a doll. Toys don't eat, silly. I was running out of patience. When he demanded I sit by his bedside all night and not turn off the light, it was the last straw for me. If you leave, I'll be mad. Okay, I'll stay. I wasn't going to obey that spoiled brat. As soon as he fell asleep, I turned off the light and trudged to my room, exhausted. In the corridor, I ran into that maid and other staff. They said they were fed up with Hugh. You're doing well though, Jill. Thanks. I fell on the bed and was about to fall asleep when I heard the boy start crying in his room. I immediately ran there. What happened? You left me! I was so scared! That's when I realized he was afraid of the dark and no one was there to calm him down. After all, his mom was never around and the staff disliked him. For some reason, I felt very sorry for Hugh. I hugged him and promised that I would always be there for him. Promise? I swear on, peanut butter. That was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Hugh and I had a lot of fun together. For example, we rode scooters through the mansion, knocking the staff off their feet. Watch out! What are you doing? You'll ruin the carpet. It costs a fortune. Jill, I'm hungry. Let's go to the kitchen. Racy there. We scared the cook and he dropped a pot of food. Laughing, we took some ice cream and kept having fun. Hugh and I played bowling using expensive Chinese vases instead of pins. We also shot at the laundry with paintball guns. It drove the staff up the wall. When Mrs. Goldie finally came home, they complained to her. However, the woman only waved them off warily. As long as Hugh's happy and doesn't bother me at work, they can trash the whole mansion for all I care. You are testing our patience. We're going to quit if this keeps up. Dear, stop getting on my nerves. That's not what I pay you for. Soon, Mrs. Goldie left again. By that point, the staff was furious with Hugh and me. We weren't worried and kept having fun. I slept in a sleeping bag in Hugh's room so that he would not be afraid of the dark. Trust me, Hugh. The monsters aren't real. Jill, no one has ever taken care of me like you. I love you like an older sister, and I love you like a little brother. One day, I went home to see my mom. Her business was flourishing thanks to the money I earned, and I was very proud of myself. Sweetie, I can't buy you a car yet, but don't you think it's time for you to come home? You should go back to school and think about your future. I told her I would babysit Hugh a bit more to earn enough money for the car, and headed back to the mansion. As I was walking through the park, I saw Fred. Of course, that nerd was reading a textbook. Jill Collins, where the hell have you been? Am I supposed to do everything by myself? Oh, Fred, how are you? Don't answer, I don't care. See ya. He caught up to me and started to lecture me. Leave me alone. Why would I study when I'm already making good money? I can't stop you, Jill, but you'll never grow up if you keep this up. See you. He left, disappointed. For some reason, his words made me feel terrible. My mood was ruined. When I came to the mansion, I was surprised to all the staff leaving with suitcases. It turned out that they were so fed up with our antics, they all quit. Wait, who's gonna cook and clean for us? Not our problem anymore. Feeling quite lost, I called Mrs. Goldie and told her everything. The woman was in another country and calmly asked me to take care of her son in the mansion until she hired new staff. Okay, I've got this. I got down to business, but soon realized I didn't know how to do anything. For instance, I almost destroyed the kitchen when I tried to make lunch. Instead of spaghetti with cheese, I got a fragrant pile of embers. While Hugh ran out of clean clothes, I went down to the laundry room and tried to start the washing machine. Except, I didn't know how to do that or how much detergent to use. In the end, I used the whole package. As you might have guessed, we had a foam party that evening. I soon realized that Mom and Fred were right. I was just as helpless as Hugh. I needed to grow up and become more responsible. So, when Mrs. Goldie came home, I told her I couldn't babysit her son anymore. She was upset, but didn't try to stop me. The hardest part was saying goodbye to Hugh. You swore on peanut butter you'd always be there for me. I'm sorry, kiddo, but I need to take care of some stuff. We can still play together sometime. He hugged me and then let me go. I moved back home. At school, I apologized to Fred for being childish. He forgave me surprisingly easily and even offered to tutor me. I don't know what changed, but I like the new you. Me too. Soon, I got my grades up. Mom was ecstatic. Everything was going great until Hugh suddenly came over. He looked absolutely miserable. What are you doing here? I miss you. Mom doesn't care about me. I want to live with you. I froze in shock. He walked in and smugly put a pile of jewelry on the table. I stole this from my mom, so we won't have to worry about money. That was going too far. I told him he had to go back home and called Mrs. Goldie. Hi, this is Jill. I have your son and jewelry. Before I could say anything else, Hugh knocked the phone out of my hands. It fell behind the sofa and turned off. Hugh ran away and hid. This isn't funny anymore, Hugh. Come out. We need to go to your mom. Eventually, I found him under my bed. I firmly grabbed him by the arm and dragged him outside. Imagine my surprise when the police surrounded us. Jill Collins, you're coming to the station with us. I had no words. They accused me of stealing Mrs. Goldie's jewelry and luring Hugh to my place. The woman had apparently thought I was blackmailing her and reported me to the police. Wow, that was the worst day ever. I was detained and Hugh was taken home. Soon, Mrs. Goldie came to the station and asked the officers to let us talk in private. I tried to explain that I hadn't stolen anything from her and it was all a big misunderstanding. Her reaction surprised me. I know, Jill. I've already checked the surveillance footage and seen that Hugh was the one who took the jewelry. Then, she admitted that she didn't know how to handle her son and offered me a deal. How about this, Jill? You'll come back and keep babysitting Hugh. In return, I'll get you out of here and won't destroy your mom's business. The nerve of her! How dare she? Unfortunately, I had no choice but to agree. As promised, Mrs. Goldie did not press charges. The cops let me go. I told my mom about everything that happened and moved back to the mansion. Don't worry, Mom, I'll deal with it. I'm not a helpless kid anymore. For a while, I lived with the Goldies and looked after Hugh. The boy was happy and didn't understand why I wasn't. Things couldn't go on like that. I came up with a brilliant plan and asked Fred and Mom for help. Once they agreed, I went for a walk in the park with Hugh. My mom and friend were already there. Fred pretended to be a helpless kid who could neither tie his shoelaces nor pull up his pants without his mom's help. Buy me ice cream! You're already a big boy and can do it yourself. I can't! I'm too afraid to sleep without a nightlight, let alone this! I pointed at Fred. Look, Hugh, this is your future. You are going to become just like him if you don't try to be more independent. He's almost a grown-up, but he can't do anything by himself. Hugh didn't say anything, but I could see that my words left an impression. We came back to the mansion, and a miracle happened. Hugh stopped acting up and demanding sweets instead of healthy food. He cleaned his room and brushed his teeth before going to bed without being reminded. His mother was astonished and asked me what happened to him. I don't want to be treated like a little kid. I'm going to be a real man. Thanks to Jill, I'm not afraid of the dark anymore. He went to bed, and his mother came up to me. I don't know how to thank you. Hugh has changed so much thanks to you. You don't need to thank me. Just spend more time with your son. He needs you, not more toys. Mrs. Goldie apologized for forcing me to work for them again. She paid me and let me leave. I came home feeling quite proud of myself. After all, I dealt with my problems without any help. Fred and I got high marks for our project. Now, I help my mom in the store after school and have fun on the weekends. Hugh is doing great as well. Even though I've matured a bit, I realize that I'm not ready to drive a car yet. Cycling to school with Fred is much more fun anyway. Jill Collins, what's taking you so long? Just a minute, my classmate is waiting for me. Hit that like button and see you in the new stories.